This is Sarah Heredia, and you are listening to the Freely You podcast. Our time together is meant to inspire you to think bigger and empower you to live your life in a way that makes you proud to be you. I believe that the only box you should fit in is the one that you build for yourself, and I'm here to help you lay the foundation. My journey has taught me that we all deserve to create our own definition of success while meeting ourselves with love and a playful curiosity. My goal is to provide practical tools and fresh perspectives so you can rewrite your story, start living your life on purpose, and ultimately become more freely you. All right. Hello. Welcome back. Today I have a dear friend with me here on the podcast. She actually has been on the podcast once before, but in a throuple setting. So this is her first time one-on-one. It is Brie Bailey, who happens to be one of my very best friends. She is a former colleague of mine. We worked together for an extended period of time. She is also a fellow entrepreneur, just started her own business last year and is crushing it, if I do say so myself. She's a dog mom, she's a wife, and she's also one of the most generous people I know. And that is actually why I have her on the show today, is to talk about that generosity, to talk about the act of giving, but also the act of receiving, which can be uncomfortable for some of us. So that's where this conversation is headed, and we're just going to dive right in. So hello, Brie.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. What a great intro. I didn't know what you were going to say.
I mean, so many things I could have said.
I know.
Are you nervous?
Yeah, but I think it's just because this is in person.
Yeah.
Like last time, Carly and we were all just on Zoom in like the comfort of your own home, your own space. So to be in the new space up here, I think that's what's a little bit makes it feel real.
Yeah, it is. It's real.
Right? With a microphone in your face.
Yeah, this is the real deal. So, yeah, Brie's in person. Don't worry. I think it only is awkward for a few minutes, Brie, and then we'll get right where we need to be.
Well, if you know me, awkward is my specialty. So it makes me me.
Yeah, let's hit on that really quick. So Brie loves to call herself out for being awkward. The irony is that I don't find you that awkward. Like I really don't in social settings. Like I think you think you're more awkward than you are.
Yes. No, 100%. And I think the reason... I think awkward, same with emotional, is just it's given like a bad rap whenever you're talking about words and learning about words. I personally think awkward is just me being me, authentically quirky, a little bit different, or just being super open, and maybe sometimes that makes other people uncomfortable. Me just kind of being who I am. So yeah, I don't know. And yeah, I do like to call myself out on it before anybody else because why not? Why not just say what it is and or say what maybe people are thinking? That's assuming a lot of things, but...
Trying to prevent the awkwardness.
Yeah, trying to prevent the awkwardness. Trying to be like, oh, you're feeling the awkwardness? It's because of me. I'm awkward. It's fine. And that normally breaks the ice. I probably... in some of my client calls or in meeting people or whatever it is, I definitely feel like I just call that out from the start. And everybody always says something similar to you where they're like, I don't think that's awkward. I don't think you're awkward. I think that you're just who you are. So I'll take it.
Yeah, and I do think when you call yourself out like that, it does make people feel, I think, like closer to you immediately. Mm-hmm. I know you and I have talked a lot about vulnerability, which is not what this podcast is about. But it is like when you call yourself out like that, it is you being vulnerable of like, this is something that, I don't know, I feel or that I don't consider like a strength or whatever. And I think that makes people feel like close to you immediately or like safe with you. I don't know.
Well, that, and I feel like I've been told, especially over the last few years, like I am... Now, my husband might not agree with this, but that I am pretty self-aware. And so I think part of being self-aware is also just kind of calling out what I've always just had people say to me, and just being like, okay, up front, this is how I am. I'm awkward, or I'm super open, or I swear, or whatever it is. I feel like I just kind of realized over time, like, me calling myself out also just made me more aware of some of the things, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think, to your point, I say what I say to hopefully just like open that door to be like, yeah, sorry if this is super awkward, or sorry if this is uncomfortable, or like, sorry if I'm like talking to you like I've known you for 5 or 10 years, but that's just who I am. And to your point, I feel like that opens the door for them to be like, oh, cool. We're kind of airing our dirty laundry. We're kind of talking about like, I don't know, what other people have maybe said to you and or about you in the past, and we're just all getting it out front. Yeah. Versus like, I don't know, the elephant in the room. I don't like the elephant in the room, I guess. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I love it.
It's how it is.
I think it's a great quality that you have. I like your quirkiness, and I like that you own it. And yeah. So I did want to talk to you today about your generosity. I think I've been blown away by your generosity for quite some time now. And I feel like, I've shared on this podcast that like receiving has not always been the easiest thing for me. And I am a firm believer that we have the relationships that we have in our lives for a reason, the experiences that we have in our lives for a reason. So I think that there's definitely a reason that you have become such a close friend to me over all these years, because you make me very uncomfortable with your generosity, and I'm working on it. But I think it's been really eye-opening to just recognize like how uncomfortable it makes me feel to have people like look out for me, take care of me, care about me so deeply, be so invested in like what I'm doing and my family. And I think that's the thing. It's like, we'll talk more kind of about Brie's giving, just, I don't know, just that quality about her, but, it really does go beyond like material giving. Like you are the most giving person. Like I'm always receiving something from you, whether it's advice, a listening ear, just genuine care. Like I'm always receiving something from you. And so I really appreciate that, first of all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But it hasn't been easy. And I've been planning to do this podcast for a while, and I kind of like just sat on it and was like, is this even a relevant subject? Like, do people care about this? And I'm like, I care about this. I care a lot about this, because this has, just brought up a lot for me. So I want to know, have you always just been a generous person? Like it's just this in your blood, or what?
Yeah, no, I do. And I think it's such as you're kind of talking about this, there's so many things that are like popping into my head, and I should be writing them down to go back to them, because I think don't worry, I got my notebook over here.
Okay.
But I think it's such a bigger topic and like a deeper conversation than what maybe some people are thinking. Like you said, the material thing. I do feel like it's in my blood, and it's so crazy because, and time me on this because you might need to reel me in, but I do feel like it really started when I was younger, because I do feel very much like I got it from my mom. I saw her constantly giving, and if that's to my sister and I, to always make sure that we're doing what activities we wanted to do, or friends' houses we wanted to see, or to have family over, to bake sales, to being a chaperone, to, at one point when we were younger, working 1 or 2 different jobs, to just always make sure that like we had what we needed. And I think that her generosity also wasn't just us. It was like how she was showing up for her friends and her family, and like for the teachers. I mean, sometimes she would be like a substitute teacher. Like I feel like that is where my people pleasing and hospitality really stemmed from, because I would say probably from like high school, especially when I was like a senior in high school, I knew that I wanted to go into hospitality. I knew that I liked hosting people. I knew that I liked making people happy. I loved being part of that experience, and also just like that giving. And so knowing I wanted to go to school for like hospitality and tourism, I think again that kind of just stems from seeing my mom give and give and give. And obviously with giving, and I'm sure we'll dive into this, I've also had to do a lot of work on knowing the boundaries and knowing when to maybe not give as much or give in different ways. And again, have that be my time, my energy, my emotion, my material things, gift giving, things like that. That's been a big thing, especially over the last few years, to really kind of focus on that and to lean in to that, I guess. But yeah, you could say it's in my blood, and I definitely feel like I got it from my mom.
And was it something that you like admired about her, or was it just something that was like learned behavior, kind of like, this is how we take care of people, this is how we show up for people?
I think it was both, because I also just feel like when people would come to our house for events or my friends were coming over, like people felt like they were at home and they were comfortable. And so for me, it's like I admired that and I loved that, and I wanted to try to figure out like, how can I make people that come into my home feel welcome and comfortable and safe? How, when I'm talking with my friends about something that is difficult to talk about, or for the first time talking about it, feeling like they're in a safe space to kind of, again, just like, I don't know. And again, I think it was definitely admired. And then I think it was also like learned behavior for sure, because it's like, okay, well, make sure, you're bringing this, or make sure you do this, because I think that's how my mom was also raised by like her mom. So I think it was a little bit of both, because I saw how happy and comfortable it made people, but also it was something that like my mom was constantly reminding my sister and I about, and not in a bad way or a negative way, but that's how she was raised. That's how we're going to be raised. But it was also something that I just feel like
came naturally, almost.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. And it was more like it was like the expectation, like, this is just what you do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was what was shown to you. So going to school for hospitality, and I know that's still a lot of what your career is service, mm-hmm. and taking care of people and worrying about all the details for people. And so, and I know that you are very fulfilled by your career. So does it bring you a ton of fulfillment? Like, is there any party that does it for you too?
Yeah, I think part of this, and it's something that I've kind of learned, I guess, over the years is, and I'm going to be honest, like there's times where like I do things for me, and then I do things literally out of selflessness for other people. And again, I think it's finding that balance of, I can't always just give. There has to be a little bit of balance. I think, being selfish was something as a kid I was always told like not to be. And so I think I kind of just, I don't know, for a really long time, always put everyone else and their feelings and their thoughts like first, and always just being there to support and hear and give and all of this. And then I realized like, no, I got to kind of figure out the balance of like refilling my cup and making sure that like I'm also doing things that bring me joy and in return bring them joy. So I think in my line of work, I think it's a fine line of who I'm working with, what their values are, kind of the types of events I do. And if you know me, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because I think some events in this industry take a lot more than what I'm willing to give in my career and at this stage of my life. But I think for me, one thing that I've always said is I love connecting with people, and I always love being a part of something that is they're doing good with whatever the event is, whatever their cause is, or it's bringing people together to, team build or meet for the first time or just celebrate a win or whatever it is. So I think for me, like, I love bringing people together to create those memorable moments. And I would say more times than not, that always outweighs kind of the ebbs and flows that come with the event industry. But I would say, yeah, more times than not, I love what I can do in my job for other people. And I think it's a little selfish because it makes me feel good. But at the same time, when I'm doing it, it's always with, like, obviously their, best interest or whatever it is in mind. Does that kind of make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. It does. And also, like, not trying to be cryptic about what Brie does here. She plans corporate events. So she used to do that in a hotel setting for years. And now she's branched off and is doing it on her own. And you mentioned, like, where you're at now in your career. So I do think that kind of ties into this, because there was an aspect of, like, that giving, right, into, like, a more structured job and schedule and, the demanding hours and all of that there was a point that you were like, I'm giving too much of myself to my career right now.
Yeah, giving too much of myself and my time and my energy and my emotions to my career. And I don't know how to say it other than, like, sometimes when you're working in corporate, you're kind of just another number. So again, finding that balance. And what's crazy is, again, it kind of goes back to what I was first saying in the sense of, like, generosity and giving can be seen so many different ways, because one of the first things that kind of pops into my head that I really started to realize, like, I love gift giving, was when I was at my first hotel and we had kind of, the opportunity to get more personalized, custom, specialized gifts for our clients and do the handwritten note and make them feel like they are the only person that we are working with. And so for me, I want to highlight that, because that's something that I still love in a professional and a personal, what's the word I'm looking for? Light. Like, I like to still do that, but it really was at, kind of my professional, getting into events, getting into hospitality, that I was like, wow, I love this kind of, like, gift giving. I love that I've been able to work with this person, get to know this person, and now I get to somehow, like, create and customize this really special gift for this person. And I think, again, seeing people's reactions and or seeing people and how they responded to, like, oh, you're not just giving me, like, a cheese board. Oh, you're not just giving me, like, a bottle of bubbles and it's that, like, you're actually. And it's funny because as I'm talking about this, I'm like, what did I give people? But it's like, you listen to them and you get to know these people. Like I said, you get to connect with these people, really kind of figure out, like, who they are as a person, but also just, like, in what they're doing for their business. And then you get to make them feel special. And so it was like this love-hate, and it still is, to be honest with you, a love-hate of, I was giving so much time to what I was doing in the hotels, I guess, that I was doing. But at the same time, it was, like, bringing me so much joy when these events would actually be on site and they would take place, and everything we had been working for and all of the late hours and the 12-hour days or whatever I was working, like, there was all a reason, there was all a purpose. And so for so long, I kind of just kept telling myself, like, this is why I do what I do. This is why I give and pour my heart and soul into this. And I'm so generous with being flexible and generous with, kind of doing what I needed to do, because then once the actual client and the event was happening, it was just so joyous to see all of these people, like, have a great time and they're creating memories and you're kind of part of it. But then again, you're making this one person who worked their ass off for their company, like, feel really special and seen and noticed and thanked and appreciated and supported, because sometimes we in the event industry don't always get that credit. People don't always see the other side, the man behind, or the human behind the curtain, if you will. They just kind of see like what's outside and what's going on. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's again, just hard. And I feel like at this point I forgot the question you even asked because I've just been talking. But I do feel, it was a job and is a job that it's hard to set boundaries, because for a people pleaser like me, who I am a perfectionist, you have to figure out the boundaries and set them, because again, if you're just constantly pouring out and you're not in return taking the time to either pour back into yourself and or, surround yourself with other people who are going to kind of pour into you, it's not great. You get burnt out and you get resenting, and then you don't want to do things that like bring you happiness and joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a fine line, because it does fill you up to do that and to give and to see other people happy. Like that, it is a genuine quality that you have, but it does come down to like, at what cost? Like, is this sustainable for me? Is this serving me as much as it's serving everybody else? And so I think I've seen you find such a better balance now that you are working for yourself. You also have more time and flexibility to pour back into yourself while still delivering the same result to your clients. As far as the like gift bags go, I have to say I'm like dying on the inside, because so Brie came to my summer retreat. She also was the very first person to sign up for my winter retreat. And that is just another way that you support me so wholeheartedly. So thank you. But it kills me to not be able to talk to you about my gift bags, because I want it to be, obviously I bounce a lot off of Brie in my business, and I value her opinion, and especially when it comes to gift giving and like creating a beautiful experience for people. You're so good at that. And I just can't ask you, because I want you to be a guest as well, and I want to take care of you. And so that's actually, it's hard for me.
Yeah. I know, and I really try to get, answers out of you. But yeah, and I think gift giving, and you may be like about to ask me another question, but I do think that gift giving, because I feel like I've also focused a lot on like professional, but there's a personal side of me where I absolutely like love gift giving. And I think, there was a time in my life where like I didn't always have, the money to always like give the gifts that I wanted. So you have to be super creative. But there was also like a time and a moment personally where I also had to kind of like take a step back and kind of like rework through kind of me in my friendships and my relationships on actual gift giving, but also like what you were saying, kind of my time and my energy in friendships. And that's been like a 2.5 year journey as well, because I think there's a lot. You can be super generous in friendships too, not just financially, money wise, but emotional wise as well.
Yeah, you led us right where I wanted to go, so thank you. But yeah, that is what I want to talk to you about, because I do think the emotional piece, I definitely want to get to that and go a little deeper. But I do think that being such a giver, not everybody's like that. And, and that goes for your friendships, that goes for your boss, that goes for your husband or your boyfriend or whatever. And so
I don't have a boyfriend.
Yeah. she's taken, gentlemen. This well-spoken lady is taken. But tell me, has that been an adjust? Like, do you ever like wish that people did give more like you, or has that ever been a thing for you in relationships where it's like you love to give so much, but maybe the other person doesn't, or that's not their jam or what their strength?
Yeah, and again, if you know me, I love to just tell long stories, and I will try to figure out how to like keep this in somewhat of a nice bow. If you also know me, you know that I don't get any sayings right.
Yeah, she really does. No sayings.
Sorry.
Wrapped up in a nice bow.
Yeah, wrapped up in a nice bow. So just stick with me because I may go like in a few different directions here. But yes, I think that when I was younger, it was just if I am always there, if I'm just always there for my friends, have that be just like physically or always listening to them or, picking them up to go and see their boyfriend somewhere. I feel like when I was younger, it was, if I do all of this, they're going to like me and I'm going to be liked. And then I started, I would say junior, senior year, kind of going into college, I realized, well, I don't really have like my own identity. Like I need to kind of like set my own boundaries and also like, why am I constantly there for this person, but they're not there for me? Why am I always spending time and energy listening to the 15th time they've broken up with the same person, but yet they can't be there for me? And so I feel like I started to kind of have these realizations like going into college that I needed to be a little bit more protective over me and my time and who I want to be friends with and who I want to surround myself with. And it was, realizing those friendships, kind of the give and the take. And, if I found myself kind of, I don't know, wishing for more out of a friendship, like at the time, I guess, like taking a step back and kind of being like, do I really want this friendship? Like, what is this friendship giving me? So I think that was like always kind of there. And I think really in the beginning, it was because I wanted to be liked, because I just felt like if I was doing anything and everything that everybody wanted and always agreeing, I was just going to be liked. And that's not the case. I think that also comes down to like people-pleasing tendencies. And so, I think kind of staying personally, try not to go to professionally, but staying personally, over the past few years, I really tried to start looking at myself and what was maybe burning me out in my personal life of friendships or just, not feeling like what I was giving, I was also receiving. Mm-hmm. And I want to say it was 2 years ago now, I think I had this major realization with just some friends and people, that I knew or that we like worked together, but we're maybe trying to like have friendships with, like how and what I wanted to see in a friendship. And I know, and what it really kind of came down to is, this one friend was having this event, and unfortunately I could not be there due to a work priority. And I felt like me validating that I love her and care for her and want to support her, the only way that I could do that was if I was there physically to bring extra decorations, to buy a gift. Yeah, like make a cake, buy a gift, whatever it is. And I remember talking to this like individual about it and kind of just being like, I feel really bad that I can't be there to like give you all of this and give you and shower you and all of the things. And it's like, it was kind of in that moment where in return, she's like, yeah, but that's not what that's not all of our friendship. Like, that's not what all of our friendship is about. Like, you give so much more. And I know that you're going to like, if you could be there, you absolutely would be there. Like, we're going to go and celebrate some other way. And it was kind of this moment of like taking a step back and realizing like, just because I love to give, one, that shouldn't be the reason why people like me. Like, that shouldn't be the number one reason why people like me. That shouldn't be the number one reason why people are my friend. But also, just because I like to do that doesn't always mean that, like what you were saying, people like to receive that or people expect that. Mm-hmm. And with me saying that out loud, I feel like with the people that expect that, in some ways, like, that's not who I want to surround myself with. And also, I've, kind of on that same note with not just gift giving, but like I was saying earlier, let's talk about hard things. Let's talk about our wins. Let's talk about relationships, whatever it is. I also realized that some of my friends gave me that in return and some of my friends didn't. And kind of making it not just be this like superficial top surface conversation, but like who is going to have the more deeper conversations? Who is going to be able to kind of know that this month I'm just not feeling it and I need my space, but they're still going to be there to like talk about it and talk through with it, and vice versa. I'm going to be able to be there and support them. So that's, again, kind of the thing that I was mentioning earlier, is I just feel like I could dive into so much of this, and it's not just the materialistic gift giving. I love to freaking spoil my friends, my family, whatever. Yes, I love to do that, but I think it's just so much more, because I also feel like sometimes my gift giving comes from a place of wanting to have that person, I don't know, experience something that maybe they would never spend the money on themselves, or enjoy something that like they never thought that they would get, or surprise them with something that they're just like, wow, that's so thoughtful. I literally said that one thing to you one time and you remembered it, and it's here. So I don't know. I think, again, there's always meaning behind. I don't ever want to do something just to do it, to be able to be like, oh, I did this for you. I think that's also the biggest thing between selfish and selfless. Like, my selfishness comes from like seeing this person like genuinely happy, or seeing this person be able to like experience something or do something that maybe they didn't think that they were going to be able to do. It's never this, well, I want to be the person that says that you've done that, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you are like, I'm just going to be honest, Brie is like kind of an extravagant gift giver at times. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my, now you've done it. Like now you've overdone it. And I feel like that a lot, but it's always, there's so much thought behind it. And I think that's the thing, is that it's such a beautiful quality that you have, and you have to protect it, because it's like, just because you're super thoughtful and because you want to make people feel good and special and happy and all of that, it is about picking the right people, because that can be draining too. If you're constantly giving in relationships that you're not getting that in return, that's exhausting.
Yeah. And I feel like I put a lot of work into it, and I feel like, again, it did get to the point where it's like, well, I did this for this person, why don't they do it in return? And it's like, okay, maybe that friendship just isn't that then, and stop giving so much, or stop putting it out there. Like, they're not asking for it. And if that's not how they want to return their friendship, then like find that balance. Like, still be able to maybe like do things every now and then, grab a coffee for them. I don't know, bring them their favorite snack one day. But like, yeah, there's going to be the time and the place and or the people where some things are a little bit more extravagant, but you know in return that that person's given you something. And I guess it doesn't always need to be this like tit for tat type thing. But I think for me, I needed to reel it in, because I was starting to kind of be like, well, maybe they see our friendship differently, or maybe their like way of being in a friendship is different than what I'm doing, and I can't get upset with them or mad with them because they're not returning it the same way that like I'm giving it. But also like, let's also like so many things, like let's also just look at this friendship, and is that the friendship that I want to be in?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a flow, right? So yeah, it's not tit for tat. It's not like you're doing something with the expectation and that they're going to do something back, but is it worth it? Like, is it worth what I'm putting into it? Am I getting value back from it? And this is a little bit off topic, but so yeah, I think it comes back to that flow, the flow of energy, the flow of your giving and then your receiving. And we've talked a lot about money mindset, and I think it's so similar. It's like, you have, in my opinion, you have a great money mindset, and it is that exact mentality. Like, I know I'm going to put it out there, and I'm not scared to put it out there. There's no fear behind it. I'm not like, because I know it's coming back to me. And it's the exact same thing in a relationship. It's like, you know, you're going to pour into the places that, you know, it's like a guaranteed return, right? Like, yeah, I'm giving this because I know I'm going to get either an equal return or, 10 times a return. Who knows?
No, totally. And again, I think too, we talked about it when Carly and I were on, but like also over the years, I think with me realizing that I need to kind of like not conserve my energy, but be more aware of like where I'm putting my time and energy, if that's personal or professional. I've also started to really set boundaries in personal and professional. And I feel like when I am really in tune with my emotions and how I'm feeling, and being able to not always hold on to other people's emotions, like I'm really showing up as my best self, and I'm having some of the best conversations with my friends or with my clients or with, my partner or my family. Like I feel like, ever since I've kind of made these changes and or set up, the boundaries, like friendships have gotten stronger, or there's friendships that maybe just are a little bit more superficial, or there's friendships where it's like, cool, we don't have to talk for months and we can come back together and we're going to just pick up where we left off. And I don't know, I think same thing with my family and how I've kind of also shown up for my family. I've changed that too, to not always just be a people pleaser or constantly willing to just be overly generous or flexible. And I guess that's just like across the board with professional and personal. And that's been a huge change. And I think, again, like if you know me, you've probably seen the shift. And I hope that the shift has been better to genuinely show up like with no fog, with no distraction of like, I want to be here with you and I want to hear what you have to say and how you're doing. And again, just be able to like give.
Yeah, have the energy to do that because you're not giving in a million other ways. Yeah. And I know, so we actually talked briefly about boundaries the first time you were on my podcast, which by the way, I think that was like episode 5, maybe. It was very early on. They were like, Carly and Brie were my guinea pigs for interviews. But we did talk about boundaries because you were at a point that you had been enforcing boundaries for a while at that point, and it's something that you've really focused on. And I know, like outside looking in, that it has freed up a lot of your energy, a lot of your mental space, because it's just not realistic to be everything for everybody. And like we've said, like not everybody deserves your everything, you know. And like, yes, it's fulfilling, yes, it feels good to be that for people, but again, at what cost? So, yeah.
No, totally. And I think with that, I'm just thinking of going back to us talking about how awkward I am. Because I think, again, and my husband said it in such a way one time where he's like, that's like, awkward is not a bad thing. Like, awkward is just like who you are. It's like your authentic self. And I think a lot of people just really love that about me. But I think also kind of that awkwardness, and maybe it's that uncomfortableness, but it's also that openness that I've just started having with my friends to be like, I'm not feeling it right now. Like I literally just told Sarah earlier today, like I'm in a space right now where I'm feeling maybe a little bit vulnerable about some of my things that I'm going through or my emotions personally, professionally. And I know I'm being super guarded with them, but it's because I'm just not ready to kind of open myself up for the other energies that are going to kind of be coming into that. And so I know that like, my friendships may look a little bit different with some of my friends right now because of just like how I'm holding my energy or my space, to also be super mindful of like me not bringing down the room or me not bringing in baggage when it's like I don't even know what that baggage is, but that's just what I have right now. So yeah, the point of me saying all this is because I can be maybe a little bit awkward with being like, yeah, sorry I haven't been here for 2 months. Sorry I've been MIA for a month, but like this is what I was going through and I needed to go through it myself instead of bringing in that other people. And I think that's sometimes where I'm not always open to receive. I can give, and give. But sometimes I get super closed down with receiving and having that be a gift and or having that be somebody being like, no, I want to hear you. Like, I want to hear what you have to say. Like, just lay it on me. And I wanted to say one thing, and I don't know if this is like, it's not off topic, but I'm trying to figure out like how to kind of tie it in to make sure it makes sense with what we're talking about, because I mentioned it earlier to you, where I was just listening to an interview, and the way that somebody phrased something, it like made this light bulb go off in my head about how people also can receive something that is being given. And it was just very interesting to me because I think back on the times of like, and now I'm going to be a little bit more heightened and aware of it, but like if I'm receiving something, like how is it being given to me? And more or less just quickly, the what this person said in this interview was she wasn't feeling super comfortable in what she was wearing. She wanted to go from like wearing a dress to pants. And it was because she was struggling a little bit with how she was seeing herself. And the designer of her costumes more or less said, but this makes you look really slimming. Like, I think you should stay and wear this. You look beautiful in this and it makes you look really slimming. And the way that I guess the designer said it, there's obviously like no ill intent. It was a compliment. It was a way for her to kind of, you know, be like, no, but this just looks so good on you and your body. But again, the way that that person was feeling was more or less like, but I don't feel good in my body. And so I think it's the same thing with giving and receiving. And I've noticed for the most part where it's like when I'm in a really good space and I'm feeling really good and I feel like, and again, it kind of goes back to that stupid tit for tat thing because it's not that, but maybe I need to dig a little deeper into this after. But it's like if I feel like I've been there and just like, you know, been there for my friends and super open and vulnerable and all of these things, then, you know, I feel like I'm more willing to receive. And I'm literally saying this and thinking about a time where I'm pretty sure I came to you and said, I don't think I said I don't feel deserving, but I don't feel like because I'm having a hard time right now and because I've been closed off from most of my friends, I don't feel like I can go to them and like talk because I haven't been there for them. And I remember we had a whole big thing on it where, again, that's also part of friendships and relationships and like the generosity and the giving and the receiving. It's not, like you said, always going to be this tit for tat. It's not always going to be this perfect ebb and flow and roller coaster. There's going to be weeks or months or years where you are always in someone's corner and they're going to have hopefully this revelation where they come out of it. And they're going to come out of it right at a time where like you then need that support. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very much where sometimes I go back to like, well, because I haven't done this or because I haven't been there or because I didn't show up for this one event, I don't deserve them to come to this event. And it's like, no, that's not it. Like your real friends, your true friends and all of that are still going to show up. They're going to be in your corner. They're going to support you no matter what, because 6 months, 5 years, whatever it is, Sarah's going to be jetting me to the Dominican Republic.
Wherever you want, honey.
You know? But no, it is this kind of just like constant reminder, but also to go back to that whole random story that I just told about the interview, is it's like, yeah, how sometimes you're giving something and that person either receiving or not receiving, it could just be that the state that they're in, they don't maybe feel deserving, or again, like they're feeling like it's a charity or this like guilt or whatever it is. And so I think that's something that like I want to be more aware of, is when I am giving, especially when it comes to like gift giving or materialistic type things, like aware of how it's coming across, because I never want it to come from this place of negativity or ill intent or let me like rub it in your face, anything like that.
Yeah, well, I will give an example that I think speaks to that, because so we recently had a little girls trip And we stayed at the Brown Palace, which if you're Denver area, you're probably familiar. It's a very nice hotel in Denver. And they have like an infamous high tea, and it's been around for years. During the holidays, like they just deck this place out. Like it is an experience, and it is like, yeah, it's just like picture perfect, literally. And, I was looking at my finances and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm in for the $90 tea experience. $90 hot tea and mini sandwiches. And Brie, you asked me, like, can I do this for you? And I was in such a place of lack. Like I hate saying no to shit because of money. That actually nothing makes me feel worse. And I was in such a place of lack. Like I can't afford this experience with my friends right now. And so when you said that, I was like, absolutely not. Like I just shut you down immediately. I was like, absolutely not. And then I had to like sit with this and like cry my eyes out over this and like process this over and over again. Like, this is just Brie, and she wants this experience, and it would be better in her eyes with you in it, and she wants you to experience it. And it's like, it's bringing her joy. It's going to bring you joy. Like, what are you actually saying no to? And I think that goes back to the receiving end of things. It's not always easy to receive. And I know even for you as a gift giver, like it's not always easy for you to receive. And especially when you are, it does depend on your state of mind, on, kind of like how it's presented in theory, Yeah. So I agree with what you're saying there. And as far as like the give and take, I heard this analogy like about marriage and specifically like parenting. And it's like, parenting is never 50-50. Like in a perfect world, sure, maybe, but I don't live in a perfect world. I don't know about you, but it's like some days I'm going to give 70 and my husband's going to give 30. And some days he's going to give 70 and I'm going to give 30. And that's the balance. And that is like, sometimes we can give more and sometimes we don't have anything left to give, and that's what you were describing. I do remember that situation because you were having like all this guilt and I'm not being a good friend right now and I'm not showing up to my friendships the way that I am. And I'm like, whoa, let's take a step back here. You have major life changes, transitions happening. You have your own shit. Nobody's expecting you to give right now. And nobody is determining your friendship by if you're giving in this moment. And it's just important to remember, especially if you do have like those giving tendencies, is that you don't have to be giving all the time. And people that you want in your life and relationships that you actually should care about aren't going to expect that from you. They're just not.
Yeah. No. And I think that was definitely like a little bit of a rework. And again, like I said earlier, kind of just the love language of like, it's funny because my love language is not getting gifts. Adam, ignore that. Don't. Just skip over that part. But like my love language is not giving gifts. But again, I think sometimes just like, I'm sure everybody can think back to a moment when they received a gift unexpectedly or something that they had been like wanting and only told one person. Like, I just feel like you can remember when you were gifted something that was like personalized or something that like you've always wanted or something that you didn't know you needed until you were given it. And I just love that feeling. I don't know where I was going with that, but I just love that feeling. And I think that like sometimes just because again I love it doesn't always mean other people love it. But to me, that's where like that selfishness comes in because I love like the joy that I get when somebody gets something like that and receives something like that. And again, it doesn't have to be materialistic. It's just like literally listening to somebody. Like, again, stay on the train tracks, Brie. But I feel like it's as simple as when we were in hospitality and listening sometimes to our clients just complain about who even knows what. And you're like, really, you're going to complain about that? But it was like the literal giving of like our time to listen to this person just complain because clearly nobody else in their world wanted to listen to it for the umpteenth time, for the first time, whatever it is. And just the like tone in their voice and the attitude shift that they had by the end of the call, that was like, yes, win.
Yeah.
Here's our win. Like, wow, okay, we came full circle. Or like me giving them 5 minutes of my time. So like even that's like friends where it's like sometimes just being like, are you sure you're good? And then being like, no, do you have 5 minutes? And it actually is an hour. It's like, again, just knowing like, holy crap, thank you so much. I didn't realize that I really needed to like get that off my chest and say that out loud. I don't know. It's just like little things like that where I'm just, I don't know. I want to be that for people, but not at the cost of like not being able to do that for me or showing up for me in that same way. So balance, balance, boundaries.
Exactly. Yeah, that is what it comes down to, honestly. Yeah. And knowing yourself, like knowing what you can handle, like right now, being the self-awareness that you mentioned earlier is huge because that's the first step is like understanding I'm not 110% right now. I don't have anything extra to give right now. And so knowing that and then being able to enforce those boundaries is huge. So tell me about your ability to receive, Brie.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the space that I'm in, and I'm more aware of it because even today, we may or may not have gone somewhere magical. But even today, you saying the simple, like, I'm going to get your breakfast. I had to, like, take a hot second and be like, okay. Like, I've given a lot, and this is something that Sarah wants to give to me. So, like, just say yes. Like, even something as simple as that.
I bought her a bagel, by the way. So, big gift giver.
But still, it very much is. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, sometimes I, like, can't shut it off. Or, like, if I don't offer to get this meal today, And so sometimes it is really nice to receive gifts. I mean, I remember still to this day when I opened up 2 different gifts that my husband had given me where it was, like, again, said something in passing, never brought it up again. One holiday rolls around and it's like, oh, like, you heard me, you like listened to that. But it's also just the way that I think just seen my friendships evolve with the receiving of like how they're just also letting me be like my authentic true self. And if I need to be MIA for a few weeks, like them just still fully accepting me and embracing me. And just knowing that, like, they're still, like what we just talked about, like, they're still going to be there. They don't just see me as their, therapist and or the person that just gives them things. I don't know. I mean, I'm still working through the receiving part for sure. But yeah, I guess sometimes I don't really know how I would want to receive things.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily like to ask for help, which we share that. Yeah. I do just want to like throw this out there. So the having resistance to receiving is wounded feminine. Like feminine energy is the receiving. If you ever look at like the anatomy of a man and a woman, like the man is all about giving and it's like that action, and the woman is literally meant to receive. That is feminine energy. And so that's something that I've had to look at, especially like I'm trying to balance, not be so masculine in my energy, especially in my work ethic. And so it's these little it's like these little clues that we're given. Like if it makes you really uncomfortable to receive, there's something deeper there, and I've had to like look at that a lot. And that's why I say like, I think that our friendship, it's like, this is the ultimate test for me because you constantly give and I'm like, it's like so uncomfortable. And it's like when you actually just let it be, like I think at this point I've accepted it. Like this is you, this is what you love to do. And it's like when you can do that, it's like it softens you, you know? And I think I think that we're so hard sometimes. Like we have this like hard exterior and it's like hard for us to receive help, receive guidance, receive a gift. Like, you know, that's a sign to soften. That's a sign like it's
really interesting you're saying this because I immediately go to your summer retreat and I immediately go to my theta healing session with Emily and being super resistant in the beginning and not wanting to like receive, like not wanting to. And I remember, and maybe I just blacked it out here, but like I do remember, I feel like at one point Emily kind of being like, all right, you're not really letting me in here. Like, you know, like what's kind of this blockage? What is this? And we kind of like dove into that like people pleaser tendency. And I think now like a bigger picture of kind of this like giving and receiving. And, you know, something came up about, I don't want to say it like out of context, but something came up more about like kind of just like slavery or like being a slave to kind of just like your work or whatever it is. And like now literally I feel like sitting here kind of hearing what you're saying about the receiving, it's like I was like resistant to receiving like healings and resistant to kind of like, you know, receiving not positive, but just like
support, guidance.
Yeah.
Being seen. Like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think too, yeah, I'm not one to like ask for help. And again, not that I'm saying it's a bad thing. I love my mom dearly, but like this woman, holy moly, like the shit she did with my sister and I, and just like, just in the amazing, like everything that she was constantly doing on her own. And like, yeah, my dad was there like helping, and definitely like, you know, I feel like I grew up with like my parents both cooking, both cleaning, both picking us up from like our sports or dance classes or whatever, like very 50-50, but just again with how my mom like really gave and did like our costumes to like everybody's costumes for plays to, like I said, the bake sales, to the everything, and not really ever asking for help from what I can remember. And so again, I think it was just something that I admired, but also something that I just like took on subconsciously of just like, well, I can do it all. And if I can't do it all, then like that's weakness. And again, it's that receiving of, it just comes back to kind of, for me, I guess, surrounding myself with like-minded people so that I don't feel like I have to always explain and or justify what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, or whatever it is, to make an excuse of like why I need help. Like just being like, I need help, and then being like, yeah, I got you. And it's not like I have to come up with an excuse to why I need help. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
It does. Like it's just okay to need help. And no, we talk about this with our Nest group. It's like it's what we all need. It's very healing to receive on so many levels. And it's also so healing to say, you know what, I don't got this, or you know what, I could really use somebody to bear some of this weight right now. I could use support. I could use help. I could use to be seen. Like there's something really powerful in just admitting that. And that's something that it is hard for a lot of us to admit. So I think I just know people are going to relate to that, because I know we're not alone in that one.
Yeah.
So do you have any more thoughts on that?
Not at the moment, but I'm sure I'll randomly just bring it up.
Okay, well, I'll have you back. I do while I have you. I definitely, I want to hear you just talk about the retreat a little bit, because I've asked you for feedback, of course, on like your experience and, you know, what could have been better and all of that. But I would just love to hear in your words, like, because yes, I know your support is a huge part of it. You're supporting me, but I know you're coming to the experience for yourself as well. And so what is the experience to you? Like, why were you so gun-ho to be like, I'm paying you today? And I'm like, I haven't even advertised it yet, Brie.
Yeah, well, and let's just like back up a little bit, because I do remember like I think sometimes, I don't know, I feel like it's weird for me to say this, but like I feel like there are points in friendships where like I can be sometimes people's like cheerleader or like hype girl, because again, I've always loved when people are like in my corner. So when you first talked about the summer retreat, I was like, just wherever, whenever, I'm there, all of this stuff. And then we had the intention call, and I remember being like, fuck, what is my intention outside of supporting my friend? Mm-hmm. Again, I need to, what do I want to get out of this? Like, I'm not just going there to just be like, yeah, Sarah, yeah. I need to, and I know there are a few people that are totally laughing at that. And you know who you are. But I was like, okay, well, I'm obviously, like, I'm paying money, like, I'm going to be there, like, I need to, like, be part of it. I need to, like, contribute. I need to participate. And so I think that that's, again, when I really kind of was like, all right, like, I really want to be kind of, like, seen and or just, like, more open. Sarah, Carly, and I, years ago, and maybe I already mentioned this on the other podcast we did, but, like, we did a reading, like a birth chart reading or whatever, and it talked about like me and my emotions, and like, yes, I'm emotional, but like I don't allow myself to always like feel my emotions on all that stuff. So I don't know, it was like during that call where I was like, I have to like figure out what I really want to get out of this retreat. And so I think I was a little bit all over the place. I think I was a little bit of just like, I want to be open. What does that mean? And then I just feel like, and I feel like you talked about this the other day, but like from the first time that we were all together in this kind of like sharing circle of just like our intros and seeing the vulnerability and seeing the openness of how how we all were, I don't know, it just kind of like set the tone of like, okay, we're in it. And I told Sarah earlier, because we were kind of reflecting a little bit on the summer retreat, that there was like a point where I was guarded, and it all of a sudden just came like to this head before I had my theta healing session. And it just like all of a sudden just like let my guard down. And again, I think if we really want to bring it full circle, was like willing to receive. And I think it was like receive what people are saying, receive what I was reading on this paper. Again, be open to like what everybody was saying and not just like shut things down or reject it immediately because it didn't feel right or it didn't land right, but really to just hear everything with kind of this like non-bias. So for me, I feel like, one, how often outside of bachelorette parties do you get to have sleepovers with adult women and have fun and have good real conversations and connections? How often when you are an adult do you kind of like meet new people?
Yeah. Especially people that you're like, oh.
Like-minded. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I feel like after that, I just felt a different way about me and how I wanted to show up and how I wanted to move forward. So yeah, I just start there because it's like, yes, I did it to obviously like want to be a cheerleader, but what I came out of was I just felt like so much more excitement around growth and opportunity and connection and becoming who I wanted to kind of be. Because like you said, I also kind of started doing my own thing last year, which made me really kind of, I think, try to also figure out my identity in that space. So obviously, fast forward, we're talking about winter retreats. The location, Avalanche Ranch, is for me a place of just like calm, relaxation, reconnection. Like my husband and I, that's where we celebrated our first like year wedding anniversary. We go there. To me, it's just like a place of, you don't have cell phone service, but of course every place pretty much has Wi-Fi now, so if you need to be connected, you can. But it like time slows down, and it's just like you wake up, you get to go to the hot springs with your coffee. And when we were talking about like a winter place, like these cabins are just cozy, the location is cozy, the hot springs are amazing. I don't know. It was just like, sign me up, because I know that whoever is going to be there and whatever we're going to do, it's going to like fill my cup on like the next, okay, I've kind of like worked through everything since the summer retreat. Like I'm ready to like hear new perspectives, hear like new thoughts, different stories, dig deeper into like my human design, and do it again with like-minded people who are there to just again give and receive. And I'm hoping that because I've kind of like worked through a few things, that I'm more willing to be on that other end of like receiving, if that makes any sense. But like for me, again, I keep saying it because I love to repeat myself, but it's the connection, it's the reconnection with other people, with yourself, with everything. I mean, it's going to be so good. My sister's flying in, and I'm like beyond pumped, because my sister, I don't even know where to begin, but she has 4 kids. And I don't think that she always fills herself back up and fills into her cup and all of that stuff. And so I'm really excited to have her out here, to just be surrounded by women in a beautiful place, to have good, genuine, authentic, real conversations of, been there, done that, let me kind of give you what happened for me, or just any kind of support. I think sometimes it's just nice to, I don't want to say break out of your bubble, but it's nice sometimes. It's nice to get out and feel challenged and or supported in a way that just is maybe different or looks different.
Yeah, and not from like, and I think that is the beauty of people that you don't know, you know, and I think that's part of that's intimidating to a lot of people, is how am I going to show up and like be vulnerable and like quote unquote work on myself and like in this room full of strangers. And it's like, that's actually kind of the beauty of it, is that nobody knows nobody has any preconceived notion of who you are, what you've done, how, like nothing. It's just you as you are in that moment, and they're just going to see you right there and then. And there's just something like so beautiful about that. And the other thing that you said, and I know you shared this with me like previously, but it's that like you're excited, you know, now you've done this work and now you get a like, it's kind of like that next level. It's like this like jumping off point. It's like, you know, you're going to leave that retreat feeling inspired and feeling uplifted and feeling more clarity on where you're going. And I remember you saying that, like, I want to get back that, like you just were describing like this, like energy, like almost like a high that you came off the retreat with, like, of like, it's go time. Like, I'm going to go. Yeah, I got shit to do.
Yeah, I got shit to do, things to cross off my list. There's a different tone and or the way that I was like carrying myself. And I feel like it's kind of like going into the new year. Like you feel like it's this like refresh, reset. It's like coming back from a vacation. And again, I think sometimes it's, I don't know, it's just like intentional time away to focus on you. And how often do we do that?
Yeah, we don't. I know. We don't prioritize it. Ever. Yeah. So that's taking place March 3rd through 5th. If you want to join lovely women like Brie and I and soak in the hot springs. I think we do have to wrap this up, Brie. Otherwise, we're going to be like one of those 2-hour podcasts that we talk crap about. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I appreciate this conversation. And I so greatly appreciate having such a generous and giving friend. You have no idea. You fill my cup in ways that I never knew I needed or wanted.
Stop it. Thank you for having me.
All right. Until next time.
You guys, thank you so much for being here today. You actually have no idea just how much it means to me. If you enjoyed this episode or believe in my mission, can you do me a solid and leave me a review, follow, or share this podcast? It would be so greatly appreciated. Also, if you don't already, you can follow me on Instagram at FreelySarahHeredia. Sending you so much love, and I'll be talking to you soon.